Wonderful. Thank you, Eliza. Hello, everyone. Welcome, welcome. Yeah, it's a cloudy December morning, but really glad to see everybody. Glad that it's not ice and sleet and freezing rain so that you all could get here safely today. Very, very glad to see everybody as we go into the wilds of the holiday season. I'd like to see everybody in their festive gear too. Like it's so much fun just to get into it. My name is Gail, and I will be your service associate today. I do ask that before we start that you take a moment to silence your cell phone so that we can be fully present with one another today. This service is being live streamed, and it's also available in the small lounge off of the entrance over here to your right. So if this large room isn't comfortable for you, you can go into the lounge to have some more quiet time and still enjoy the service there. We also have another TV down in the fellowship hall basement if you need even further separation. Oh, okay, it's not picking up. Oh, in the fellowship room itself. Thank you. In the fellowship hall. So, we are a welcoming congregation, whoever you are, however you identify, and wherever you come from, and whoever you love. You are welcome here. Our Sunday services are different each week so that we can honor and learn from our wide array of traditions and beliefs. Ever since the Guest at Your Table program began in 1975, it has introduced generations of Unitarian Universalists to the grassroots partners of the UU Service Committee who are working for justice around the world with your support. This church year, we are celebrating Guest at Your Table's 50th anniversary with the theme, Expanding the Welcome Table. Our own UU friends Claudia, Diane, Janine, and Lisa will share thoughts on service to others and to our planet. And before we get into that today, we will be lighting our chalice. The flaming chalice was first used by the Unitarian Service Committee as a symbol of life-saving refuge for the people fleeing persecution in Europe. As we light this chalice, we invoke the love that called people to put their lives at risk to save others. This morning, our chalice will be lit by Claudia. May we be vessels of life-saving welcome. And now please join in singing hymn number 362, Rise Up, O Flame. Claudia will be giving us our opening reading.
This is a reading by Reverend Wendy Bartell, We Who Dwell on the Margins. We who dwell on the margins know about divisions, arbitrary and intentional, like land, like class, like culture. We make sharp borders around pieces of ourselves, and we blur the edges by being who we are, by expanding the circle. Beyond boundaries, we multiply possibilities. Languages, customs, practices, rituals, and ceremonies, not one narrative, but shared stories. Separation is illusion. Love transgresses borders between you, me, us, them, between secular and sacred. We need trust to strengthen our connection. We must dare to cross from my world into yours, from your world into mine, until we begin to weave a tapestry of faith and wonder aloud, who are we? What is a nation? Who can own the earth?
Thank you so much, Claudia. And now, please rise in body or spirit as we sing together, Open My Heart, which is number 1013 in the Teal hymnal. This one is a little more unfamiliar to us, so Eliza is going to play it through once so that we can hear the tune, and then we will sing it twice. It's a pretty short, beautiful hymn. And now our sharing moment today will be presented by Janine, who wrote this story, which is being used by all you using the Guest at Your Table materials. Please, Janine, come and present Circles of Light.
This on? How about now? Is that better? Okay. So I became a Unitarian. I started going to a church in 1996, so that's been a little while. My children were young then. And so this was all new to us, these traditions of the chalice and the circle, and all of that was new, and we didn't understand any of it. So I started looking into it and thought, other people are new to this. And so about 20 years ago, I put together a bunch of short stories, and UUA was kind enough to publish them. And they're basically history stories and stories of famous Unitarian Universalists and stories of the seven principles. And it was an idea to help young people learn about what it is to be a Unitarian, and also grown-ups, because a lot of us come to it from different places. So this is a story that I wrote about the flaming chalice. We've already heard a little history, and here's just a bit more. In the dark nights and darker days of World War II, guns blazed all over Europe, and airplanes dropped to death from the sky. Many people were trying to escape from the war, and these people were called refugees. They sought safe refuge. Some Unitarians in the United States wanted to help. They wanted to go to Europe and help bring those people out of that dangerous place. But the refugees came from all over Europe. They spoke many different languages. And people in the United States spoke mostly English. And they needed a symbol that everybody would see and recognize, and you didn't need to know the language. They didn't want to use a cross because that was very Christian, and many of the refugees were Jewish. They didn't want to use just the Star of David because then the Christian refugees might not come to them. They needed a new symbol, a special symbol. Dr. Charles Joy was the man in charge of the Unitarian Service Committee. And so he asked an artist named Hans Deutsch to help. Hans, as you can tell from the name, was Austrian. He had already fled from the Nazis. He went to France, and then the Nazis came into France, and he had to flee again, and he went to Portugal. And that's where Dr. Charles Joy met him. And so they talked a little bit to draw us a symbol that will be easily recognized. And he did. He drew an oval with a chalice and a flame. We saw it a little bit earlier while we were doing the lighting of the chalice. It was easy to recognize. It looked official. They put it on all their formal documents so that they could get through the paperwork and the bureaucrats and would let them through. And the picture gave the message of hope, freedom, and love. And so they used that symbol, the Unitarian Universalist, or it was just the Unitarian Service Committee, used that symbol during the war. In 1976, there was a gathering of Unitarian Universalists. They gather every year for the General Convention. And they lit a flaming chalice. And this was the first time it had really been used in a group setting. And so many of the ministers were there, and they took that idea back home with them. And so now, 50-some, 60-some years later, the flaming chalice is used all over the world. It started with one circle. It then now has two. You can see it right up there. Two circles, Unitarians and Universalists. One's not inside the other. One's not bigger than the other. They're intertwined because Unitarians and Universalists are intertwined. And you may notice that the chalice is a little bit off to the side. It's not centered. It's not right in the middle. There's room for other things in there. There's always room for more in Unitarian Universalism. Our chalices today, many of us have some in our homes. They may be made out of wood, metal, glass, clay, all kinds of things. We made some here ourselves with the help of one of our members. We made them out of clay, and so we have those at our home. They come in many shapes and sizes and colors, kind of like us. There's always different ways of being a Unitarian Universalist. And so that is our symbol, the circles of light, the flaming chalice. It's a symbol of bravery, love, hope, and freedom. And we're proud to light it today. Thank you.
All right. And now we will release the children to their own religious exploration. Please remain seated as we sing them on their way with Go Now in Peace. We will now have a few moments for meditation, reflection, and prayer. The singing bowl will lead us into silence. After the silence, you're invited to join in the song Spirit of Life, which is hymn number 123 in the gray hymnal, and the words will be on the screen. And now Lisa will lead the responsive reading number 646 in the Gray Hymnal.
Today's responsive reading is by Wendell Berry. I'll read the bold, and you guys can read the italics. We clasp the hands of those that go before us. We enter the little circle of each other's arms. And the larger circle of all creatures. To a music so subtle and vast that no ear hears it. So, every year for Guest at Your Table, we are introduced to 4 guests, and they represent some of the hundreds of grassroots partners. Let's meet this year's guests.
Organizations leading the protection of human rights and social justice. Welcome to Guests at Your Table. We invite you to take a seat and meet the unstoppable organizations leading the protection of human rights and social justice around the world. First, we welcome Joe Jickham, an organization from the Marshall Islands playing a key role in Pacific youth climate engagement. For example, this past year, Joe Jickham's youth staff, who are all under 25 years old, led and produced the National Adaptation Plan. The plan is a major climate policy document that includes strategies to help adapt to the effects of climate change over the next 50 to 100 years. The plan is backed by research. Through surveys, outreach, interviews, and even art, the youth coordinators gather the data needed to make informed policy recommendations for generations to come. Next, we welcome the Pink Haven Coalition. We have seen the legislative, social, and judicial environment in the United States growing increasingly hostile and fascist. In response, Pink Haven works together to create networks of safety and direct support for trans beloveds and their families to flee unsafe states, access gender-affirming health care, or stay as safe as possible where they are. Our next guest is Queers Fit. Over the last year, the organization helped over 1,030 people of the LGBTQ+ and BIPOC communities of Ukraine and neighboring countries to safety in response to Russia's full-scale invasion. Queers Fit helps to build legal cases, provide asylum consultations, support people to plan their migration, and provide humanitarian aid. For example, last year, with the help of Queers Fit, a queer couple was able to escape Kyiv and move to Canada, where they got married. Our last guest is the Haitian Bridge Alliance. The Haitian Bridge Alliance advocates for fair and humane immigration policies and provides people in migration with humanitarian, legal, and social services with a particular focus on Black people, the Haitian community, women and girls, LGBTQIA+ individuals, and survivors of torture and other human rights abuses. This year, the organization is working with UUSC to research the disparate treatment of Black asylum seekers within the U.S. immigration system. The project will provide a deep understanding of issues such as detention length, conditions in detention centers, family separation, and experiences during credible fear interviews. UUSC remains in firm solidarity with all of our partnering organizations, and we can't wait for you to learn more about our esteemed guests through our Guests at Your Table.
So I was asked to speak, the first one that was mentioned, Joe Jicum, which is a group in the Marshall Islands, a low-lying country that is severely imperiled by rising waters due to climate change. When I watched the video, there's another video you can watch where one of the members speaks, and he talked about the importance of wanting his children to have the same kind of life and experience that his parents and grandparents had had. It's a generational connection to preserve their culture. Here in Kentucky, I'm not a native Kentuckian. You may be able to tell just by how I talk. But I moved here about 10 years ago, and we have now 5 acres. And I started looking into plants. It was the first time I got interested in gardening. And I got interested in part because of my mother. She died the year after I moved here. And so when I garden at my home, it's an honoring of her, and also looking forward to future generations of all the plants, butterflies, birds, and I hope younger people. So I think of my little patch of 5 acres as an oasis of native plants in a sea, in a desert of corn, which doesn't offer any food to our local indigenous wildlife. So that interest in gardening led me to get involved with Green Sanctuary, which is a UUA program around the world, or many congregations are involved with it. Our congregation is getting involved with it. Green Sanctuary is basically eco-friendly ideas, can be anything from energy conservation here, composting our leftover food, gardening, all kinds of way we can make this place an oasis. And not just an oasis, but an ark, a small place to let creatures carry on. In part of that, I'm going to make a real quick plug. After the service today in the fellowship hall, we'll be having a little workshop on wrapping presents. Americans buy and throw away millions and millions of pounds of wrapping paper every year. The shiny stuff cannot possibly be recycled. And so an alternative to that is wrapping paper, or wrapping presents with cloth. And so we'll be doing a little workshop on that if you're interested. So that is my plug for that. And we were asked to bring our own little guest at your table containers. They used to give us little cardboard boxes, and they were different every year. And then someone finally said, yeah, that's not very environmentally friendly. And so they said, hey, collect the money as best you can. So I have here a little jelly jar, decorated with a little piece of paper on the inside just to look kind of pretty. And so every day during this season of holiday giving, we put the extra coins in here. And then in January, we put them here.
I'm representing Pink Haven Coalition. The transgendered issue has always been a real tough issue for me. Growing up around here in Kentucky, this is not traditionally a place where people talk about sexual orientation or identification or any of those things when I was growing up. You were either a boy or a girl, end of story. And it wasn't until our film industry and television sitcoms and magazine articles and plays and finally family members coming out to their own families that it became somewhat more acceptable in our culture, and it felt like we were progressing and things were getting better. But as we all know, we don't live in that world today. But I started coming to our Universalist church here, and I became really good friends with a dear, dear trans lady. And getting to know her and talking with her, having conversations, it really was rather enlightening. And, you know, she was a person. And it, let me check where I am on my notes. So, the organizations that I currently belong to, Habitat for Humanity, Democracy Now, we listen to, the Unitarian Universalist, Stand with Love, American Civil Liberties Union, Kentuckians for the Commonwealth, Indivisible. All of these groups right now are working toward strategies for how to help transgendered people who are being threatened. I'm looking at you, Nancy Mays, harassed and ostracized, but their plans are they're still in the making. And so it's really gratifying to me to know that our Unitarian Universalist Service Committee is working and partnering with Pink Haven Coalition to make sure that trans friends and family can be safe and can be transported out of state if they're not safe. And I put my 2 cents worth into and will continue to do so for this cause, to take a stand and be willing to risk something. And other than money, I think that actions will also need to be a part of this response to what's happening in our communities. And I am proud to support and hope that you will also.
I'm going to be reacting to Queers Fit. I can't imagine having to live your life in constant war, trauma, and devastation as those in Ukraine. In trying to live an authentic life as a member of the gay community on top of that just seems impossible. I am so deeply moved by groups like Queers Fit, who are providing help for LGBT Ukrainians and other nationalities to find a way out or just to provide everyday necessities. I can relate to this need in my own activism here on a local level on behalf of my gay friends and family. It shouldn't be, but even here in the United States, the gay community still lives a life of uncertainty. Will the Supreme Court step in and throw out settled law? What will the new administration do in their threats of exclusion? We don't know. That is why all of us must remain vigilant. That is why I will continue to speak up, to work for a fairness ordinance for Bowling Green, to be proudly tabling at Pride Fest, and to work with other voices here at UUCBG honoring our welcoming designation. Recently, I attended the Bob Kirby branch to watch the Buddhist monks working on a sand mandala. And among their merchandise of brightly colored scarves, purses, items were wall hangings, and I bought one. It spoke to me. There was a written passage from His Highness the 14th Dalai Lama which said, "We are visitors on this planet. We are here for 90 or 100 years. At the very most during that period, we must try to do something good, something useful with our lives. If you contribute to other people's happiness, you will find the true goal, the true meaning of life." And that's what Queers Fit is doing in Ukraine, helping others to the happiness they deserve. It matters not where we live. We are all humans seeking life, liberty, and happiness. I will continue as long as able to lift up others, both near and far. Here is my homemade guest at your table jar. And here's my donation to UUSC.
Thanks, Diane, and everyone. I'm Lisa, and I'm responding to the Haitian group that's working with immigrants, particularly black immigrants. In 2019 and 2020, my husband and I went to the Rio Grande Valley, which lies along the border between Mexico and the United States. At that time, if you'll remember, there had been a lot of talk about immigration, the building of a wall, and whether the people coming across the border were dangerous to U.S. citizens. This is a controversy that divides us still. Here in Bowling Green, we have accepted refugees under a federal program for many years. I wondered what people who live in communities along the border thought about the situation. Our desire was to help and to witness. We found out about the Catholic Charities of the Rio Grande Valley, which helps asylum seekers as they are released from detention, providing food, clean clothes, and rest before they continue their journey to locations around the United States. We learned two things. One, we were surprised to find out that at the southern border, there are not just Hispanic people seeking to immigrate to the U.S. There are people from countries in Asia and Africa, as well as throughout Central and South America. Secondly, we witnessed a collaboration between the Border Patrol and local community groups, such as the Humanitarian Respite Center, which is where we volunteered. While we acknowledge we might not have been exposed to everyone's viewpoint in those communities, we do feel that our snapshot was similar to what we experience here in Bowling Green. Mostly, people go about their daily business without a lot of conflict. We work, we shop for groceries at Walmart, we live alongside each other in relative peace. I'll just end with this, a quote by Sister Norma. She runs the Respite Center. I urge you to look past the fear-mongering and mischaracterizations and remember to actually see the human beings fleeing persecution and their need for human dignity, which mirrors our own. This was given to me by my niece. It's from Namibia, Africa.
So everyone, over the holidays, please put out your own recycled guest at your table container. Fill it with change and bills, and bring it back next month for our third Sunday, January the 19th. Let's do our best to make this a great campaign and even exceed last year's amount of $2,039.22. UUSC thanks you for your steadfast support for human rights and all you do to help create a more equitable world. Thank you.
Thank you all. Diane, Janine, Lisa, and Claudia for sharing your thoughts today on this worthy topic. And then that will help us segue greatly into our offertory. I will remind everybody that the guest at your table money will be collected for next month, but today we are celebrating our third Sunday beneficiary. This holiday season, let's join together to give love, joy, and meals. Every dollar you give today can help provide at least 10 meals to families facing hunger through the Feeding America network of food banks. Our donation is also to honor Janalma Barnett, continually recognized for working tirelessly in this program and throughout our community. She is a wonderful friend of our church, and this program is invaluable. Please give generously as you are willing and able. If donating by check today, please designate by writing Feeding America in the for or memo area. Let there be an offering to sustain and strengthen this place, which is sacred to so many of us. We are a community of memory and of hope, and we are called to be the keepers of the dream. Eliza. And we thank you for these gifts. May we use them wisely in the service of our congregation and our community. If you have questions about Unitarian Universalism or about joining this congregation, please speak with a member of our membership team. Members can raise their hands, yes, or email membership@uucbg.org. On second Sundays after the service, you can join in a question and answer session with our membership team in the library. And now for community news. Today, after the service, is a demonstration and workshop on how to wrap gifts without gift wrapping paper, as Janine referenced earlier. That will be happening at 12:30 today in the Fellowship Hall. The event is sponsored by Green Sanctuary, and everyone is welcome. And then we have a lot going on in December, starting with our 11th annual Winter Solstice Spiral. That will be this Saturday evening, December 21st, with a 5 p.m. family or anyone who wants to come at 5 p.m., as well as 7 p.m. We are taking donations of evergreens, so drop those off at any time. And if you'd like to help create this spiral and set up, please come at 3 p.m. that afternoon. Our yearly Christmas potluck will be at 2 p.m. on Christmas Day in the Fellowship Hall, and everyone is welcome. A sign-up sheet is in the lobby. And then a UUCBG Trans Support Group will meet at 5:30 on Thursday, December 26th in the Fellowship Hall. It is open to UU members and friends, as well as other folks in the community. Please let people know about it. And then mark your calendar for the Kwanzaa celebration on Friday, December 27th. We're asking for donations of cornbread and non-perishable food items. Details are in our weekly email updates. Please sign up for those if you have not already. Next Sunday will be the Reverend James Miller leading our service. The topic is illumination and will include our evergreen spiral. For more news, please subscribe to our monthly newsletter and weekly update via email. Visit our website and our Facebook page and check out more information on the bulletin boards. As always, we welcome your feedback about today's service. You can email Sunday services at uucbg.org or leave a paper note in the suggestion box in the lobby. And then the online form can also be reached via the link on our YouTube channel or by the QR code, which is on the bulletin board and in the welcome brochure. All right. And now please rise in body or spirit as we sing together, Here We Have Gathered, which is hymn number 360 in the gray hymnal. And we will have the words on the screen. this morning, Diane will be giving our final reading.
As we look to a future that recognizes our deep mutuality, may we always set an extra place at the table. May we intermingle our stories of hardship and hope as our definition of neighbor grows ever larger. In our uncertain present, may we look to the legacies of justice makers, and may we seek out new possibilities unfolding all around the world. Blessed be and amen.
We now bid farewell to those who have joined us online. We hope you found this service meaningful, and we invite you to join us again, either in person or online. Be well and go in peace.